Good morning, Morai v'Rabotai, Bruchim Abayim. We're continuing on Masechet Succah, and we are on the bottom of Daf Chavtet, Amud Aleph, 6 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. This Amud is being learned as a Zchut Refuah Shelema for Michael ben Nahid. They should have full recovery, Refuah Shelema, Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. Rachel Simcha bat Nahid should have full Refuah Shelema, Amen. And also the girl in our community, Esther Bracha Bat Chaya, should have Refuah Shelema, Amen. This week's learning of the community has been dedicated graciously by the Shea family, by Dayan family, by Kohen families. It should be an ultimate zchut for all their mishpachot, Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. So we're at the very end, last stretch of Perek Sheni of Hayashen Tachat Hamita, and as many of the prakim of Shas have it, the last piece is like a beautiful agadic piece. We started this really in the last shiur last week, and today we're going to continue and complete the piece of agatas that the Gemara has, a beautiful, deeper pnimiut of the Torah, of the Drush, Tanu Rabbanan. Bishvil, we were speaking about eclipses, the lunar and solar eclipse, and the Gemara now says, Bishvil arba'at dvarim chama loka. And by the way, you have to understand that we mentioned this on our own, that the Gemara is saying that perhaps a lunar eclipse is a bad siman for the Jews, and a solar eclipse is bad siman for the world outside of the Jewish community. And the Aruch HaShulchan, Rabbi Chiel Michael Epstein, he writes in his halachot of Kiddush Levana in Siman Tav Chavav, the coined sentence that Israel domin la Levana, that we are very much exampled to the moon, and we explained that just like the moon doesn't have its own light, it reflects the light of sun. In some sense, we are the ambassadors of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the ones who reflect the values and the light of Hashem onto the world. So that's an important element to keep in mind as well. You see this really by Yaakov Avinu as well. Yaakov Avinu, in the dream of Yosef HaTzadik, the dream that Yosef had, the Yareach v'Kochavim, Hashemesh v'Yareach v'Achad Asar Kochavim mishtachavim li. So who is the Shemesh? It's Yaakov. And as we will see, just momentarily, Yaakov also is exemplified with Levana. So sometimes you're Shemesh, sometimes you're Levana, and we explained this, that in general sense, even the leadership of Klal Yisrael, the Melech, was the ultimate leadership and power, is really the last of all of the 10 Sfirot. That it's Mekabeli accepts all of the Shefa that comes from the top to bottom, and then it's like really the Sfirah that gives that to the next set of Sfirah. So you could be on the top, but you really also are accepting, reflecting the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is the ultimate Melech, and perhaps that could explain, by the way, why it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as one of the mitzvot of the Torah, one of the Taryag mitzvot is, Som tasim alecha melech. You should definitely put a king. But at the same time, it's like mentioned, it's one of the only things that's mentioned as like a post-factor thing. It says, if you go amongst the Goyim, and you see the Goyim, and then you want to be like them, right? It sounds pretty bad. It says, you want to be ke'achad mehim, you want to be like one of them. And you come and you ask for it, okay, so then definitely put a king, right? And we remember that the first time that Jews asked for a king, in the time of Shmuel HaRamati, Shmuel HaNavi, and Shaul HaMelech, who was Mishichvo Mala Gavoah Mikol Ha'am, he was the greatest. Ben Shana Shaul B'Morcho, he was like a pure as a 1-year-old child. He was Nechbe L'Kelim, was the most humble individual. He's tremendous. Hashem chose him. And yet, Shmuel was so upset, reflecting HaKadosh Baruch Hu's displeased with Klal Yisrael. Miraculously, it was not a time for rain, and it starts raining. to show, to display HaKadosh Baruch Hu not being happy with them, which also, by the way, it's a stretch. Usually, rain is siman bracha, right? But when it's untimely, just like we had in our daf, when it's the first night of Sukkot, Hashem is kind of like rejecting. And Shmuel there says, you rejected Hashem. Because Hashem Malkichim. Hashem is supposed to be directly your king. You're asking for an intermediary. So it's like that dichotomy that you have. A king is supposed to recognize that he doesn't have anything of himself. Nothing of himself. You see this in David HaMelech in a beautiful way. David HaMelech, when people hated him, he had many enemies. But when people hated him, he didn't mind it a bit. He says, who are the two arch enemies of David HaMelech? The powerful individuals, greatest of the Talmidei Chachamim of the generation, was Doeg HaEdomi. The Gemara says he was Rosh HaSanhedrin, he was the head of Sanhedrin. The Gemara in Sotah Daf Tet says, Kol Chachmei Doro Lefanav Ki'ispeh HaSadeh. All of the sages of the time, compared to him, were like grass in front of a tree. They were like nothing. He was the greatest Talmid Chacham, and he made it his business to destroy David. And the other one was even worse. The other one was Achitophel, who the Pasuk says about him, V'asat Achitophel asher ya'atz bayamim hahem, the advice that you got from Achitophel, if you went to ask him a question and he would answer you, Keshoel ba'urim, it would be tantamount to a person asking the chest plate of Kohen Gadol, the Urim Vetumim, and getting a direct answer from God, from Hashem. Can you imagine a person of that depth of knowledge, the tremendous fortitude that he had, and he was even more hateful of David than anybody else. He had to do with him being a great uncle, Bathsheba, and so on. But David HaMelech says, "Va'ani b'chalotam levushi sak, ineti basom nafshi." When they get sick, I put sackcloth on myself. I sit on the ground. I fast. I daven. I cry for them to get better because Klal Yisrael needs them. Now they hate me, but they're needed. So that's David HaMelech. And yet, when it comes, it's not from weakness. When it comes to someone that doesn't like Hashem, people who went against Hashem, says the pasuk in Tehillim says, "Halom esan'acha Hashem esna ubemitkomemecha et kotat." People who hate you, Hashem, I hate them. Whoever gets up against you, I will fight with them. Tachlit sin'ah senetim le'oivim hayuli. I hate them the utmost level of hatred that you can imagine. They are my enemies. So my enemies are not my enemies. That's not a big deal. But your enemies, Hashem, I will not stand them. So that is a king that doesn't have his let le migarmeh klum, like the language of Zohar Kadosh, that he doesn't have anything of himself. That is really this dichotomy of Levana and Chama, and it's an important preface to what we're going to see right now. Its important preface was just the imagery of us being the Levana, the reflection of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. It's something very important. So it says, for 4 different averot, we have solar eclipse. It's coming to point out and maybe awaken us and give us hit order. Again, we spoke about the fact that these things are set in motion. You could predict when it's going to happen and so on. We spoke about that. Says the Gemara, 4 things, 4 elements are related to Likui HaChama, to solar eclipse. Al-Av Bedin Shemet Ve'eno Nispat Ka'alacha. One is when the Torah giants, Av Bedin, the highest Talmid Chacham, the head of the Sanhedrin, the head of the Bedin, dies, Ve'lo Nispat Ka'alacha, and he was not eulogized properly. Now, this is obviously a shortcoming in appreciation of leadership. The Gemara says this in Masechet Shabbat, a very powerful Gemara, on Daf Kuf Hey. The Gemara there says, when a Talmid Chacham dies, a community as a whole has to eulogize him double and triple. And the Gemara says very strong words. It says, a Chacham כל המתעסל בהספדו של חכם, if you're lazy to participate and to eulogize, חכם ראוי, the language of the Gemara, very powerful, ראוי לקוברו בחייו. He should be buried alive, which in a deeper sense means this is a person that's alive, but is like dead. He does not feel the importance of centrality of leadership. If you don't have proper leadership, you don't have a proper community. If you don't have strong leadership, if people don't appreciate a strong leader, an Av Bedin, then that community is going to go down. It's like alive, but it's really dead. It's already dead. You just have to announce the death. It looks like it's alive, the community, but it's the beginning of the end. And that's very much aligned with this Gemara of a Av Bedin Shemet, ve'eno nispat ka'alacha, is likui halevana, because likui hachama, because just like the sun is the mashpia, is the one that provides us the source of light, leaders are source of light for the community. Again, that dichotomy that we said, it could be chama and levana at the same time, right? So this Av Bedin is part of the Am Yisrael, is part of the levana, but in his position, he's the chama. It's like the malchut that is giving the energy, the shefa to the lower sfirot, is giving the energy to his people. And if that is not, that's a lack of appreciation for leadership, for having the mashpia, the source of light, it would be likui achama. It's very much corresponding. It's midah keneged midah, so to speak, with likui achama. So says the Gemara, I believe that all these four things, they have in common a problem in the society's leadership. You have a woman that's me'orasa, is technically speaking married. Back in the time of Chazal, there was a year lapse between Irusin and Nisuin. So in that period of time, she's considered an Eshet Ish, she's considered a married woman, she's not living with her husband yet. And if she is violated in the city, ve'en moshiala, and nobody cares, nobody says a thing, that shows obviously what the society has become, and it is a problem in the leadership. If you had strong leadership, those things would be followed up. And if it's not followed up, it's a problem also in this. It's a societal problem. It starts from the top.
And it doesn't matter if she's engaged.
Well, it's a bigger avla when a person. You see, a society. The Rambam writes at the end of Perek Chavbet of Isurei Biyah that there isn't a generation in Klal Yisrael that their biggest problem is not biot asurot, issues of promiscuity, from time immemorial have been really the greatest challenge of every society, Rambam says. Fine, we understand that. But there is a difference between a promiscuous act and an act of egregious act of violating a woman that's married. It's a certain level of being wrought in society when people can't even react to that. Something that everyone understands, something that even the goyim, the Rashi and Chazal say, even the goyim were nigdar ba'arayot from the time of Mabul, right? Mabul happened because these things were violated, and the world was destroyed because even the goyim are supposed to understand that. If the world does not react to that, the society is rotten. We had this again by Sodom v'Amorah, that this was the element that they had together, coupled with public gezel and so on. So this is a level, a societal rot in destruction, and therefore it will be likui achama, because the governors, the people who are in position of leadership, are not doing necessarily their job. That will be my understanding to put it together with all the four things that are mentioned over here. Ve'al mishkav zachur. Homosexuality is again another thing that was well accepted in even the time of Mabul. This is again, Mabul came because of these things. Chazal say this was because of homosexuality, and the reason for it again is this certain level of focus on tava, which rots the core of society, and if it's not acted upon, it's a showcase of lack of proper leadership in judicial system. And if the judicial system is gone, that is like a chama, the light of sun that's supposed to be lighting up the earth, and it's going to be covered. It's not going to be there. And again, when you have murderous acts that are so prevalent and rampant that you have two brothers that are killed. Again, Rashi says over here, to just make a disclaimer, it says, I don't know why these things deserve that. We're saying creative items for him. This is, I'll have to take the blame for it if it's incorrect. But the understanding of this would be that when the judicial system is so rotten that you could have rampant murder, that even two brothers, what are the statistical chances of that happening? They will be killed together like that. And that obviously is a sign of a rotten society as far as the judicial system is concerned, and therefore the ones who are supposed to be the light to the community, the sun, the mashpia, the bedin, the sanhedrin, the heads of the community, that would be obviously corresponding with sun being covered in a solar eclipse. Now, here it's clear that meorot means the moon and the stars. So for four other types of averot, now the moon is going to be looking out. But aligned with what we have been saying, and the Gemara has been saying earlier on, the moon is the recipient. Now this is not in levels of averot in the higher leadership, but it is within the community. Things that go wrong, major things that go wrong between people in an interpersonal relationship, which does not necessarily have to do with the leadership. And says the Gemara, al kotve plaster, people who forge shtarot, they forge documents, right? So this is obviously sophisticated level of theft by forging shtarot, by forging documents, and that's between people. It's not necessarily people do that, and it's very hard to catch it. It's not necessarily a shortcoming in the government and the leadership of the community. It's the people being rotten between themselves in the society. Same thing is with people who provide false testimony. The sheker, which again, it's not a testament on the leaders of the society being rotten. It's just people being rotten, and it's not. There's no real control on that. People who raise be'emat, we learned this in the Gemara together, and this part of it is because of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. When you don't care about other people, I want to have my be'emat, even if it grazes and destroys the garden and the landscape of the land of other people, which again is a person that's insensitive to other people's property, stealing and taking over without care to other people's property and domain. And al kosesei la tovot. Same is with when you cut proper fruit trees. That again is the mitzvah bal tashchit, but again it means that you're selfish to cut things that could be providing for the society, for the world, and you do it for your selfish needs. Again, all of those things are levels within regular citizens, not to do with the leadership of the community. And if that is destroyed, if that people are not sensitive to the property of the society and the trees, which is the communal properties, or to interpersonal in transactions of forging shtarot and so on, or as simple as having your animals destroy other people's properties, that would be likuya levara. That shows that the society as recipients are rotten, and hence midah keneged midah would be corresponding to a lunar eclipse. And says the Gemara, another 4. By the way, 4. To me, it seems that 4 is always an element of creation, of the actual existence, because you have 4 elements of the actual creation, of course, right? Afar and Esh and Ruach and Mayim, they're the 4 elements of creation, and it corresponds with all the 4s really that you have. You have 4 letters of the name of Havaya Baruch Hu, the name of Adnut, the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu being 4 letters, and you have, of course, the 4 sides and 4 cups in the Shonot of Geulah, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu was to save us and create a nation. That creation also is, and again, this gets part of a bigger discussion that you have 7 aspects of creation, 4 elements of creation, and 10 dimensions of reality, right? So therefore you have sometimes all of the Mishnah in the beginning of Perek Hey in Pirkei Avot starts with V'asara Ma'amarot. It's a sets of 10s, all the 10s, right? Those are the dimensions of creation. That's why you have 10 makot and 10 commandments in positive and negative. V'asara Ma'amarot Nivra Olam, the 10 tests of Avraham Avinu, 10 times we tested HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and so on and so forth. And anything that has to do with the physical reality of the world is 7 maximum. So 7 days of the week, 7 colors of the rainbow, 7 notes of the music, 7 years of the Shemitah, 7 cycles of Yovel, and so on and so forth, right? And then in the Mishnah, it's like that. It's a few sets of 10, then a few sets of 7, and then a few sets of 4. If you pay attention to the 5th parak of Mishnah Pirkei Avot, and the 4s, and when you have full cycle of creation, which is 4 elements times 10 dimensions, you'll have 40, right? Everything that's full creation is like a 40 shana akut bedor. Hashem is creating a new nation, 40 years, right? Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to the heaven, 40 days, right? All those things will be very, again, deeper sense of understanding, but here is 4 Devarim, because these are the elements that put together a nation, really. For 4 different reasons, people lose their assets to the government. Why is that? Again, these are people taking advantage of their power in the wrong way. You have a debt, you're holding a document that Reuben owes you money, and Reuben comes to pay, and say, okay, payment accepted, I'm not giving you back the shtar. This way I could abuse and hold this over your head and sue you in court again to get a second payment, and so on. Al malve brivit, a person that loans with interest, which would be asur to do to the Jews. Again, this is you're holding this power. He needs you. You could help him, but then you're neshech umarbit. You are biting into him that he has to pay you like a loan shark, and that would be not something the Ramban writes. That's not that essentially something is wrong with it, but it's a shortage in the feeling of the brotherhood that we're supposed to feel to help other people, our brothers. So it says the Gemara, al shayas sefek beyadam limchot velo michu, and on people who could have fixed a problem. Someone that is popular and powerful, and you could say when someone is doing an avera, when someone is taking advantage of someone, they could stop it, and they didn't stop it. And on people who publicly donate and they don't pay. Again, these are people who hold power and they abuse their power. Someone that's rich says, oh, I'll pay $1 million to build the shul, and then gets the publicity, and then afterwards says, my wife said that I can't really do it, and so on, and then the next thing is canceled. So those are abuse of power when you have the proper power, you abuse it, or you don't use it properly, which is being able to stop others doing wrong, and you don't. And Rav says, Rav bishvil arba devarim, the last four, right? Another set of four, for four different reasons. Nichse ba'ale batim yotz'i letimion. People, rich people, become poor, lose all their assets for four different reasons. What are the four? Al kofshe schar sachir, when people delay payment to their workers, right? Go and say, oh, go come back tomorrow. And so you have the money, they're asking for it, they need it, and you're delaying it, you don't care about their state of being a poor man that lives day to day from paycheck to paycheck. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, let's give it to you to feel how it feels when a person needs that type of life, paycheck to paycheck. And of course, oshkes char sachir, people who completely deny and don't give. The difference is oshkes char sachir is, I'm not paying you, right? Not that delays and plays with him, but he steals from him and doesn't give. This could also be in format of, look, I don't really have this. Okay, so I'll pay you, but 50 cents on a dollar. If you want, that's stealing, right? That would be obviously oshkes char sachir. פורקין עול מעל סבריהן ונותנין על חבריהן ועל גסות הרוח. And people who, again, take the yoke off of their neck and put it on other people. This is when a person is rich and powerful and could do things, could accomplish things, and instead of doing that, they put it to that, but you do it, and you know that you could be doing it just as well or even better, and you don't use that power properly. Hashem says, okay, fine, so you were an agency for me to have in the world for this to get to get done and to happen. You don't do it, fine. You put it on other people. I'll take your riches and your affluence and power and give it to other people. Val gasut haruach, a person that is arrogant. Now, that is also because HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given you a gift of power and influence with making you rich. Nichse ba'alei batin. And if you take credit for that, if you think that this is you doing, I made myself rich, and the person becomes arrogant and Baal Gava, Hashem says, fine, let's see how you do on your own. You think you did this on your own? Fine, let's actually listen to you and put you on your own and see how you do, right? And then he'll be losing his money. And says the Gemara, the worst of all of them is the last one. The arrogance. The person thinks that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not the one that did it, it's he himself that did it. Aval ba'anavim ketiv, about the humble people. It says, ve'anavim yirshu aris ve'hit'anegu al rov shalom, that the humble people will inherit the land. They will not lose their riches. They would actually be in the long term. They will be the ones inheriting the land. Ve'it'anegu al rov shalom, and they will enjoy and take pleasure on a tremendous level of peace as well. Hadran rach perek hayashen. B'ezras Hashem will be starting the next perek in the upcoming shiurim, and I want to thank everyone that has been really consequential in the Amud Yomi series. It's a tremendous thing, and you have to go out. Don't keep it to ourselves. We just spoke about using influence. Using our influence to get people to learn is the greatest riches. You're giving money to the greatest wealth to people, and it doesn't cost you a dime. That's really what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to see, that a person cares about the other people and brings them also under the wings of Torah. People who are not learning, they're badbach. If you're not learning every day, you're the poorest man. And just give them tzedakah. The way you give them tzedakah is them come and learn. You get them, it takes a few phone calls a day. I spoke just yesterday with 5 people. And here it's not even putting a special time. You bump into someone, you speak to someone, you tell them, like, come to learn. And you pull your calendar out and you put it in there to remind them once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, until it happens. That's the spreading of the light, being a chama, being a sun to other people, spreading the light of Torah, reflecting that light that we got from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the people who don't yet have it. And that's really the ultimate ta'anuk for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to see that we care about other people as well and don't keep the riches only to ourselves. Chazak.